Okay, so we're in December now, and that means that fishing is going to start becoming much more difficult than it has been over the previous few months. And we're at Meadowlands today, and I'm on Warren Pool. Now, this has been fishing quite tough recently, and I want to just show you how, by fine-tuning our approach, we can still keep fish coming, even in those really cold, horrible days. It's just 3 degrees today, cold wind, there's no sun or anything. It's just one of those days where everything's against us really to have a good day's fishing, but hopefully by following these few tips I'm going to show you, you can still catch a few fish even on the coldest of days. Okay, so we're on peg 17 today. Now the first thing I did when I got here was speak to the venue owner, Wayne Sharman, and I thought it's a great bit. First thing you've got to do when you come to a venue is ask the bailiff or the venue owner where to fish, because I could sit down that end not knowing the venue and just be nowhere near the fish. You know, in the winter, fish will become more localised, so you've got to be in the areas where the fish are. I'm on peg 17, this is a noted peg. Wayne says this is your best chance for having a good day's fishing, and I think that's so important. If you are going pleasure fishing at this time of year, you've got to get yourself on the fish. So do your homework, ask the venue owner, ask the bailiff, even go on Facebook, look at match results. There's normally a few hot areas that you can try. And this looks perfect. I mean, look at the swim, it's a nice big open swim. I've already plumbed up, it's quite deep. I know this lake is generally pretty shallow, but this is the deepest area. It's like 5 foot, maybe even a touch more in this swim. And it just looks like the perfect place to get a few bites. I'm going to fish a couple of pole lines, well 3 pole lines, and I'm also going to fish maggot feeder. I think maggot feeder is great when it's like hard conditions. I think sometimes just fishing like nice and carefully with maggots on a maggot feeder at a little bit of a range is a really good approach. So I'm going to kick off on the maggot feeder, and I'm going to fish 2 long pole lines, one with pellets, one with ground bait and pinkies, and then I'm going to feed a bit more positive short, hopefully to catch some skimmers and stuff like that later in the day on a bit more of a positive line. But even though it's going to be hard today, I'm really excited because the wind's kind of off my back. I've sat out the wind, I'm quite comfortable even though it's freezing. I think it's going to be a good day, and I'm going to show you hopefully a few tips and tricks to help get you a few more bites over the coming weeks, because it is going to be difficult and we need to use all these tricks that we've got up our sleeve to keep the fish coming. So let's get some bait in, and we'll catch some fish hopefully. Right, so we're going to feed 3 lines today on the pole. Now we're going to feed a pellet line because I think you've got to on commercial fisheries, even for skimmers, you've got to have one in the swim somewhere. That's going to be off to my left, and I'm just going to feed that really frugally. Then to my right, I'm going to feed like a ground bait and pinky line that I'm hopefully going to catch a few skimmers on, maybe some roach. Bit of a line to catch a bit of everything. Then I'm going to feed quite positive short, quite a bit more ground bait short and more casters, just trying to probably use that later in the day. So for the pellets, all I'm going to put in is a tiny little sort of pinch of micros. I don't know how this lake's going to respond. It's been fishing tough, so I don't want to go piling in pellets for it just to sit there making my life difficult. So I'm going to put in a pinch just to start with, and that'll kick the line off nicely. That's going to go in at 13 meters. Now I'd like to fish it longer, but it's deceptively windy today, and I don't want to put my bait in at 14.5 meters or even longer and not be able to do it properly. I'd rather fish short and do it well than long badly. So I'm just going to put it nicely at 13 meters. I know I can hold that comfortably. Now, when you're feeding such a small amount of bait as what we're doing today, got to be accurate. So there's like a bird hide opposite me, and I'm going to put this in right on it. So that's gone in there nice and accurate. Now that's enough to kick the swim off as far as pellets are concerned. And then to the right, I'm going to feed like a little ground bait line. Now, I had some success here a few years ago feeding like tiny little nuggets of ground bait, like little golf balls with an odd pinky, and I'm going to do that today. Now this is actually a deepish swim on this lake, but I still feel like feeding quite negative will be the way to go. So I'm just getting a pinch of pinkies, and then in the top of my ground bait bowl, I'm just sort of working them in a little bit, and I'm just going to make a little golf ball. There's an odd pinky in that, not loads. Less is more for these skimmers sometimes. And I'm just going to literally kick the session off with one of them, just a tiny little golf ball. You can see an odd pinky in there, next to nothing. But what I will do is top that up regularly with a similar size ball. Those 2 long lines, I'm hopefully just going to tick along on those throughout the session and sort of ease my way in. Again, because we're feeding such a small amount of bait, we've got to be accurate. There's one big sort of willow tree in the distance there. I'm going to pop my bait in right on that. Then when it actually comes to fishing it, there might be quite a bit of tow today. This lake can tow quite a lot. So we'll have to work around it and work where the fish are sitting in relation to the bait, but we can work that out. As long as we keep our feed accurate, we can then work out how to present our rig to get the best from the swim. And then short, I'm going to fish short, totally different. I'm going to be much more positive because I feel like I'm going to use that later in the day. It's going to be sitting for an hour, 2 hours before I even look on it. So I'm prepared to be a bit more adventurous with the bait. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get a sort of pound full of casters. I'm just going to mix them around in my ground. It's the same mix. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put in 3 cups of loose ground bait with just them like smattering of casters through it. My thinking being, I'm just going to create a nice area for them fish to come in and graze on it and just sort of feed without any worry really while I'm just waiting. And that ground bait, because I'm feeding it loose, will just fall down and settle over a nice big area. And then when it comes to actually fishing it later, I can tighten things up by feeding like smaller balls or loose feeding in a nice tight area. So I'm just going to put 3 of them in with like that pound full of casters, and that can just sit there and I can loose feed casters over the top and hopefully catch some fish on that later. Might be roach, it might be skimmers, might be perch, who knows. It's a great way to fish that is with that loose ground bait. It works really well. Just give it sort of a little thumb down, like a little press down in your pot, and you'll see when I pot it in, it's just sitting on the surface just for a second or so, and then I just turn it over and it just sits there, pops out like a little sandcastle, and you can just see it bobs and then it just flutters down, and it's just going to give me that nice big area. So that's the free swims fed. I'm actually going to kick off on a maggot feeder, so let's get on with that now and have a look at the maggot feeder. Right, well, I thought I'd keep my day off on the maggot feeder, and I've just put in like, how many have I put in? 10 maggots in the maggot feeder, and I've put Pinky and a red maggot on the hook, which is a brilliant winter hook bait. One of the best tricks in the game, that is, to get your bite on a hard day. And I'm only fishing light. I'm trying to catch silvers really, but we've hooked a bit of an animal here, and it'd be a miracle if we get it out. But it just shows you, doesn't it, that there are fish to be had, or bites to be had. Now it's going way right. I'll be amazed if I can get this in, given the light tackle I'm using, but you never know, we'll give it a go. Got a lot of stuff to contend with here. There's bushes and trees and all sorts, but you never know. I couldn't believe that when it went round. Come on, come away from that tree, you. Oh, I tell you what, we might get lucky here. Move feet. I say I've only got an 0.10 hook length on because I'm trying to catch, roach and skimmers really, but we've got a lovely light rod on, so there's every chance, it's nice and balanced, so there's every chance we could get him out. I think that is the beauty of the maggot feeder, and we're just here trying to have a nice day fishing, and it'll catch everything. If we catch a few carp along the way today, brilliant. Obviously, if you're in a silverfish match, you don't want to catch them, but I don't mind catching them today. They're a lovely bonus on a cold day. Take whatever you can get, and the maggot feeder is perfect for that, because not only will you give yourself a chance of catching roach and skimmers and perch and things, but you also got a chance of catching these as well. And it's easily forgotten these days when we're all chucking methods and wafters and bread and you name it. Sometimes a maggot feeder is not even considered. Come on, me beauty. It's not a massive fish, but they put up a good scrap on 0.10 hook length, that's for sure. Oh, yeah. Yay! Cracking. Oh, that's not a bad start. Yeah, a little beauty he is. Like a lovely scales pattern on him, and he's got that hook, was never coming off in a million years. Let me just get me disgorge it. He was never coming off in a million years, that fish. And he's an absolute Bobby Dazzler, that one. Look at that. For a start on a cold day. What a beautiful fish. He's got barely a mark on him. Full of scales. And the perfect way to kick off this session. Spot on. So he just landed that lovely bonus carp, and like I say, I was just having a little exploratory chuck without the cameras on, and it went round with that carp on. So as I mentioned, I caught it on a single maggot and a fluoro pinky, which is a brilliant bait. When things are hard, that just seems to, the maggot, obviously they love the maggots, and then the fluoro pinky, I think it just helps catch their eye. And I'm just filling up a lovely little sort of Drennan maggot feeder with about 10 maggots, that's all. And I'm just gonna ease my way into the session really. And it's quite nice because an odd one will sort of fall out of the feeder as it's going through the water. A few will get to the bottom, so you get a lovely little column of bait. And if we just keep casting it in every few minutes, and hopefully we can sort of build up a nice little area of the swim. I've just got really light tackle on. I've got a size 18 hook on, an F1 pellet hook, really nice and fine and sharp. And I've got that 010 line, so really light, delicate hook length. And I've actually set that up on quite a long hook length, it's 70 centimetres. And the reason is, I think with the maggot feeder, I think obviously some maggots are coming out as it hits the surface, a few are falling out as it's falling through the water. And the regular casting, I think the fish are sort of at all levels, and I want to sort of capitalise on that by having a sort of slow falling hook bait, and having that slightly longer hook length just hangs that maggot up in the water just a touch longer. The water's ever so clear, and I think sometimes just helping catching their eyes with that maggot and fluoro pinky hook bait with that long hook length can work really well. Okay, so we've been fishing for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes now maybe. And I'm getting an odd little indication off silvers, but very, very few. And I've got a funny feeling it's because there's the few of these carp hanging around. You know, it's like when you silverfish fishing, as soon as a carp comes into your swim, you just often don't catch them. But if we can catch an odd carp, then that's just great. And this is the second, number 2. This one feels different again. Now when I'm hooking bonus fish like this on light tackle, I use the drag, but I also take the back wind off so that I can react to it quickly. Obviously the drags are great and everything, but sometimes when everything's a bit critical, you can just let a bit of line off like that, and it can save your bacon when you're only using light lines. So it's well worth doing. Just playing, I do a bit of both, a bit of playing fish on drag and back, back winding. Now this fish again, like the last one, he's going a bit worryingly close to a bush, so I'm going to have to make or break it here really. and if we get broke, we've been a bit unlucky, but the last thing I want to do is let it all go in that tree. Got it, yeah, we've got it away from that. Just behind the camera there's a big snag bush, and if it goes in there, I've got no chance, to be perfectly honest. Incidentally, while I've been fishing, I have topped up the 2 long pole lines, just again with a tiny little marble of pellets on the pellet one and a tiny little nugget of ground bait. I think when you're feeding light like that, you do need to keep adding a bit more. There's some real big fish in this lake. I'm not saying this is one of them, but you do catch them regular into double figures, so get one of them, it'd be nice. Might need a bit of a scoop, this one. Maybe should have put the bigger landing net on. So I was hoping for silvers and stuff, not double figure carp. Another reason I like to play him on the clutch is because it annoys Nathan Watson, because he always sends me a message after a video. He's like, will you tighten your drag up? No, Nathan. Jumps in it. Oh yeah. I should have had a bigger landing net on. Look at that on 010. And a fine hook. Yep. Should have had a bigger landing net on. Well, look at that for a bonus on the maggot feeder. Alright, it's getting on for £10 I reckon, that one. On 010 and a fine wire 18. Just shows you what you can get out if you can just take your time with them. And I think I'm going to go on the pole now, because it doesn't look like I'm going to catch any silvers on that maggot feeder. I think there's a few of these snuffling around. I'm getting an odd liner and stuff, so I'm going to get on the pole and just see if we can catch some more silvers on that. But what a cracking start. 2 beautiful carp. Let's get him back and let's get on the pole. Okay, so this is the maggot feeder setup that we've been using. It's really simple. I've just got a 10-foot Superior SL. I think this time of year you just need a lovely soft rod, and that is exactly what this is. I've just got my normal sort of 520 reel on, and I've got £4 detection on the reel. I think when you're using light feeders, £4 comes into its own really. It's just a short chuck. We want a nice light line. It just helps casting those light feeders. But the rig, it's a little bit borrowed from Mick Viles and a little bit borrowed from Steve Ringer. Now, what I've got, I've tied a big loop in the end of my main line. I've then cut it right at the top of the loop, and then used that to form like a little boom there, and then I've put a loop to loop below it from a hook length to add on. So if you imagine my main line, I've just tied a big loop in it, and then chopped it, and then put a smaller loop at the end of it. And what it does, it creates this little knot that I can cast off. So I don't need any beads or anything like that. I always find when I've got any sort of junk on my line, I get tangles. A small rubber bead isn't too bad, but anything bigger or bulkier, I just find I get tangles. And this, there's no weight down the line. I just never get any tangles with it. I've got a tiny little homemade feeder link there with a little diamond eye swivel at the top and that little maggot feeder on it. Now, below that, I've got like a 70cm hook length, like I spoke about. That's a 18 F1 hook on there, 010 hook length, nice and light. And as you've seen, we've landed those 2 big carp on it, so it's more than strong enough to deal with anything you're going to hook today, really. It's balanced, everything's balanced. We've got the drag set light, we've got a soft rod, everything's balanced. But it's time for a bit of pole fishing now, but I just wanted to show you that maggot feeder before we moved on. Okay, so I suspected before the start that this was going to be a very tough day, and that is exactly how it's turning out. Now, there's 2 carp on the feeder, which is beautiful, can't knock that. But we didn't get any silverfish bites or anything on that, which was a bit concerning, to be honest, because I really expected to at least catch a few roach or something, even if they were like little nuisance ones, but nothing at all. And I can't stress how cold it is. It's absolutely freezing. And I've dropped on my pole lines off camera, and it's been no bites. I've one little indication on my pellet line, and I've had 1 bite on me where I put my ground bait and my maggots, pinkies, sorry. And I think we're sort of, let's have a look at what time it is. It is 12 o'clock now. And I'm not going to panic, because it's still early days really. We've still got a few hours to go. But I must admit, I'm starting to think about how I'm going to actually get some fish going here, because when it's like this, sometimes you have got to trigger them a little bit. You know, we've put our little traps in and stuff, and it just doesn't seem to be bringing a response. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start loose feeding maggots over that ground bait and pinky line instead. Just because I feel like I need to trigger something, and even if it means just catching some roach or whatever, it might just get some feeding activity in the swim, just to trigger a response. I think sometimes just getting your first few bites is everything at this time of year. When it's really hard like it is today, just getting off the mark is really important. So I think if we just I'm not going to go mad, I'm just going to, sort of feed 6 or 8 maggots a go in a nice little bit of an area. And hopefully we can start encouraging a few fish to feed, because at the minute, what I thought would be an absolute banker for a few bites on a tough day just hasn't worked yet. Like I say, it is early days. I'm not panicking or anything, but it's certainly proving tricky. And I feel like just loose feeding a few maggots will hopefully encourage a few fish to feed. Now, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but this lake's got a really funny toe. And it's like, to my left there's like a bowl, like a round bowl. And I think it almost like pushes the water, when you get a wind on it, it almost like pushes the water around, a bit like a washing machine. And I've had tow that's gone from right to left today, like with the wind. I've had tow that's gone from left to right. And I've had tow as well that's taken me float past me, like straight in a straight line away from me. It's so bizarre how this lake changes throughout the session. I've noticed it a few times when I've been on here. And like now, it's not towing at all. It's just sitting there, which is literally 10 minutes ago, it was ramming through that way. So it just shows you how, oh, that looked like a little bite. Just shows you how things can change throughout the day on a lake like this. Keep that up now. Keep the maggots going through. I haven't had a look short yet, but wait. There we go. So I don't know whether it was obviously loose feeding some maggots, because I've literally only just started doing it, but I did get a bite of chuck before. And like I say, we are getting to that sort of time of day now where we're in the afternoon now. I would, you know, if we are going to get some bites, it is going to be at this time of day. And that, I'll tell you what, that's not a bad fish at all. Oh man, catching them beauties. I've just got the 4 to 6 zip in, so nice and light. Hey, cracking. Well, I wasn't losing hope, but I was just starting to have my doubts whether it was going to happen today, this. And then we've just got that beauty. So that, I mean, I don't think it'd be £2, but it'd be certainly £1.10 or something like that. Very welcome. Just on single red maggot. Beauty. So that's actually, like I say, I don't, whether it was just a timing thing or whether that loose fed maggot has just brought a response, but that is good news. Right, so we just had that skimmer. In fact, I'm going to call it a bream. I'm going to call it a bream. We've just had that bream, and I've gone back in and I missed a bite and I caught a little perch. Now, when you catch a little perch like that, I'm not so sure there's much else in your swim, to be honest with you. So I'm going to give it another little top up. There's an odd pinky in there, next to nothing, to be honest with you. And then I'm going to have a go on pellet. Now, all of a sudden, I'm feeling a bit more upbeat about our chances of catching a few skimmers. I feel like we're going to start getting an odd bite. And don't get me wrong, we're not going to catch £50 today, but I do feel like we're going to catch a respectable little bag of fish. I'm just going to pop that in. And I'm still going to loose feed over that, but I just wanted to keep potting that small amount of ground bait in, because we have only put a little bit of bait in there. So we do need to keep putting a bit more in. So let's put a pellet on and see if we can't catch one on that. Now I've got a really little pot on. I'm just going to put in like a pinch of micros in the bottom of the pot. Just something to fall through the water. We've already seen a response from having maggots falling through the water on the other swim. So I've got to imagine that having a few micros going through the swim ain't going to do any harm at all. Let's just pop that in. Now, catching on pellets when it's towing hard can be troublesome. It's normally better on, you know, days where it's maybe still with little wind. So I'm interested to see how the tow performs now. Now we're going on this line. Still haven't tried that short line, and I haven't gone back on the maggot feeder. I've seen quite a lot of carp actually topping further out into the lake, and I'm pretty sure if I was to chuck the maggot feeder out again, I'd probably catch some more carp. Carp that. We've got a bite on pellet. And I reckon we've got a carp, which is great. Either that or it's a massive bream, but I tend to believe it's a carp of some description. So I'm going to break down there just in case it goes on a bit of a run. Not a massive fish. At least we've had a bite on pellet. I think I saw on Facebook that he's just put some small, like, stocky carp in. So it could be one of them. But whatever it is, it's very, very, very welcome. Another carp just rolled there. Now, if I was match fishing, I'd definitely be on the feeder, I think, because there's definitely obviously some carp out there to catch, because they keep rolling and stuff. But yeah, it does look like one of them little stockies. Yeah, it is. Oh, that looks like a cracking little fish, that does. Yeah! First fish on pellets. Look at that little beauty. Showroom ready, that thing. Look at that. That is a Bobby Dazzler, isn't it? Look at that thing. Absolutely pristine. And that must be one of the, look at that, that is the most perfect hook hold you've ever seen in your life. Top lip. And that is an immaculate little carp. Oh, another one just jumped out. Now I wonder if that's going to be, I wonder if that's what we're going to catch on pellets. I wonder if we're just going to get a little run of those little carp. I mean, it'd be nice if you do. I like catching them. Right, let's have a quick look at the pole rigs. Well, we've just topped that pellet line up, so it's time to have a look at the pole rigs in a bit of detail. Now, what rig should we start with? Let's start with a short pole. Now, the floats on all these 3 rigs are exactly the same, and they feature the bulk float. Now, for the short line, I've gone for a 0.4. I'm hoping there's not as much wind and stuff there, so the 0.4 should be adequate. I've got 4 to 6 zip, but interestingly, I've only got it through one section of pole. So if I take that off, it is just through this one section of pole, which, when I'm expecting to catch roach and stuff like that, I really like doing that. It gives me the chance to swing the fish in. I can sort of power up that elastic nicely and swing the fish in. It gives you lots of control. It also gives you a bit of tension. So when you're fishing with light hybrid elastics, are quite spongy, quite soft, and sometimes you don't get any tension when you're striking. You've got no backbone, if that makes sense. And when you're fishing for roach, I do think you need a little bit of backbone to actually set the hook, and having that short length works really well. Now it's about, well, I can tell you exactly how deep it is. It's 68 inches deep, whatever that is in feet. I'm sure I can overlay that and work it out. And as you can see, I've got a bulk and 2 droppers. The bulk is 24 inches from the hook, and I've got 2 number 10 droppers, and then I've got a 6-inch hook length, which is 09, and that is an 18 B911 F1 hook. So nice, simple rig. I'm hoping to catch roach there later, maybe an odd skimmer, and I think that rig will just be perfect. And interestingly, I've plumbed it up, you can see there on the mark, to the bottom of the body, but I will put an inch or more on, maybe 2 inches on, as we get fishing that line, and we need to actually work out how to present the bait. But that is a good starting point. Now for the ground bait and maggot line out long, the rig is pretty much identical. Again, the 4 to 6 elastic. The only difference is I've put some back shots on this. The wind's a bit trickier out there. I've gotten a lot of tow out there, and I may have to put them on that other rig, but I've definitely used them, and they've been really effective out long. The only difference is, float wise, is I've got a 0.5 this time instead of a 0.4. And again, I've just got a bulk and 2 droppers and an 18 again. And then finally, we've got a pellet rig. And again, once again, we've got a 0.5 bulk, same back shots. The only difference is we've gone up an elastic. This is the 6 to 8. Now, I'm a firm believer in, when you're fishing pellets for silvers, you do need to go up a grade of elastic. So when I'm using the 4 to 6 for my natural baits, I think you do need to go up to like the next one up for your pellet fishing. Reason is, when you're just lifting into your fish, like when you're fishing with maggots, obviously you can strike a bit harder. But when you don't want your pellets to come off, you're lifting into the fish, and that slightly thicker elastic just helps you set the hook. The only difference is with this rig, I've got a 4-inch hook length. That is to get my last dropper a bit closer to the hook. When you're fishing with expanders, you need that last dropper a little bit closer. And I've just got 2 droppers again and a bulk. And it is simple as that. I've plumbed that one up a lot more precisely, right to the bottom of the body. But again, I'm gonna move that. I've got to find out how it works. And I'm not frightened to add a bit of depth on, but I don't want to fish as much over depth with this because I'm fishing with pellets. So they're the 3 rigs, really simple. And yeah, let's get on with it and see if we can catch a few more on the pole. Okay, so it's now 2 o'clock and we've had 1 skimmer and 3 carp, oh, and a little perch. And it just isn't going to plan at all. We're having very few bites, but we are getting to that sort of final hour now where there is the chance of a few fish, I think. It's clear we're not going to be catching loads of fish today. It's just tough. The fishing's tough. It's that time of year where the fishing's tough. But I want to just like put a positive swing on things because we're still out. It's a lovely day actually now. The afternoon's great. The sun's come out. It's quite pleasant sat out here now. It's not as cold as it was this morning. And we're still out doing what we love. So yes, the fishing's hard, but ultimately we're out fishing and that's the main thing. And a lot of people put the kit away over the winter, but you can still come out and have a nice day's fishing, even if, you know, you're not catching the massive weights you do in the summer. It's not always all about that. Now I just want to touch on like the approaches and stuff, because when it gets hard like this, it can be really easy to go down a really negative path in terms of bait and feeding and stuff like that. And I've gone down that route myself before, like when you're fishing for silvers, like you bring it all back, you barely put any bait in and stuff, but I still think you need to be quite positive when it comes to silvers. Today, it's clear they're not feeding, but I've seen it so many times, like I've tried to go down a negative route and the bloke near me who's just put a bit more bait in than me, been a bit more positive, ends up catching like 2 or 3 bream late and beats you anyway. This is obviously in a match scenario. I think you still need to be relatively positive, even when it's hard, because today we don't know how this is going to pan out. We might not get another bite, but I'm still keeping that bait going. I'm still trying to make it happen. I'm still trying to be positive, because on a day like today, 2 or 3 skimmers late would be massive. It'd catapult you up your section placing on a league match or something like that. And I think it's important not to get too downbeat and start fishing too negatively. We've still got to try and make things happen. So I think that's something that I've learned over the years. Like, even though it goes hard, it's still important to be positive with your fishing in a controlled manner. But I think that's a really important lesson, that is, because like I say, I've thrown so many matches away thinking, oh, I'll be super negative today, and then the bloke near me who's just been a bit more brave than me ends up catching more anyway. So yeah, so I'm going to finish this brew and I'm going to go out on the maggot line, and I think hopefully, fingers crossed, we get a nice little finish. We've also got that short pole to try as well, which you never know. It doesn't look like happening, I've got to be honest, because the fishing's hard, but you never know. We might still pick up a nice little flurry of action to end the day. So let's get the rig out and let's see if we can't catch a few more. Well, would you believe it? I've just done my lovely, I want to call it a monologue, but I don't know the actual word, about, the session not panning out as well as we'd hoped for. And I've just gone out there and I've dropped out, and like I say, it's 2 o'clock now, so we are in the prime time. If ever we were going to catch some fish, now is the time. And I've gone out and it's buried. Like within 20 seconds I've been out there and we've got another skimmer. And that just shows you, doesn't it, when you're winter fishing, like that time of day thing is so evident, and especially on really hard days like today is, there's very few bites. But being keen and keeping your focus right till the end is so important, because, that, I don't know what it is, from that sort of 1:30, certainly 2 o'clock onwards, then fish just appear from nowhere. And, I'm not saying we're going to go on and catch a load of fish now, but all of a sudden we've just had a nice skimmer and it's looking good all of a sudden. And because we've kept the faith, we've kept feeding, we've kept topping up, we've kept trying, we might go on to have a really nice finish to this session now. So I think that's just something that's really important, that is, that keeping the faith and sticking with it. Because you only remember the end of the session, don't you? And if you end up on having a good last hour, then you go away with wind in your sails, don't you, ready for next time. So let's see if we can make the most of this last hour now, and hopefully put a string of fish together. Now interestingly, that was just on single maggot over my right hand line, where I put that ground bait in to start with just one little nugget, and I've topped it up 3 or 4 times maybe today with another little nugget, and then I've loose fed over the top, just maggots, and I'm just fishing single maggot over the top. You could experiment with hook baits, but obviously I'm just trying to put on what I think's a banker for a bite, and single red maggot is just a great bait for skimmers, isn't it, and whatever swims really. So I don't want to get too experimental, might as well stick with what I know works. And I'm not leaving it sitting for long. The 2 skimmers I've caught have come as the rig settled pretty much, so certainly in that middle part of the lake, it went calm early, and you can see little pinprick bubbles coming up, which is like the giveaway to where they sort of sat. And I'm pretty sure, bomb and bread or something like that, casting up in amongst that, would have got you some bites today. We're just out of range for my setup. There you go. Amazing, isn't it? That light just drops and all of a sudden they turn up. It's like the essence of winter fishing, isn't it? Sometimes you could just sit there all day and then all of a sudden don't really do anything different. They just decide they want to feed. You see that elastic? It's just beautiful. At 4 to 6. Working so well for that them fish. That's another skimmer. Lovely. 2 in 2 chucks. And all of a sudden, it's looking like we could put together a little bit of a bag of fish. Now, obviously I've got that pellet line there, ready to go, that I've kept on top of. I've kept topping it up. But we're against the clock now, we're fishing. We're going to fish till 3, which means I've got like 52 minutes now. And as long as I was getting bites on this, I probably wouldn't ever come off it, because it'd be hard to, you've not had enough bites to sort of risk anything. So if I stop getting bites on this and I feel the need to top it up with some ground bait, then I'll try the pellets. But if I can keep getting odd bite on this, I'll just stick with it, because I'd just be moving for the sake of it, really. And the same with that short line is, you could go short and get a run of better fish, but you could also go there and not get a bite. And it feels like one of them days where you might not get a bite short. There we go. That's 3 in 3 chucks. It's just amazing, isn't it? How they can just appear. And it just reinforces what we're saying about, staying keen and staying focused, because, it's looking good now. All of a sudden, they're just here. Like I say, we haven't really done anything different. It's just now's when they want to actually feed. Brilliant. Seems like if you catch several of them in the last hour, you're ending the day on a really positive note, aren't you? So just again, that was another bite that came kind of as the rig settled, just a few seconds after. I can only assume that's because the water's got a decent bit of clarity to it and they're seeing the maggot. saying that. Ooh, that could be a carp. That could be a carp. That feels carpy to me. It's staying low and it's staying deep and it's staying heavy. Just amazing how these fish just show up, like, incredible, isn't it? We did a video with Mick at Boddington the other day, and he expertly landed one. So the pressure's on me to try and do the same, isn't it? I suppose. Where is it? All the way over there. I'm going to break down there because it gives me the option of adding sections on if he runs off. Like he is doing. Now you may be wondering why I keep putting my pole in the air. Now it's something that actually I learnt off Des ship. And sometimes when you're fishing with light elastics and you hook big fish, sometimes just changing the angle and getting your pole up high like that, just they like come back under your pole sometimes. It don't always work, granted, but sometimes just when they're charging and charging and charging off, sometimes if you just keep your pole low, they just keep going and keep going, but just suddenly drastically changing the angle and putting your pole up in the air. As you see there, he was running off and I just thought, I've got to just try, and I just lifted my pole up and he came back under my pole tip. And that happens a lot, that. And it's something it's you know, landing some really big fish, that is, on light tackle. It looks unconventional, but it can really work. Like I say, I've got Des to thank for that one, because he showed me that a long time ago. Right, I just get a go with him here. I'm just going to get a bit more elastic back. Yeah, lovely bit of Will Raisin scoop in there. I saw him about 3 foot down. I thought, you know what, I've got to take my opportunity here, and I did. And he's I don't think he was ready, but we got him anyway. Stop it. Cracking fish. Another carp on light tackle. So we've done well, haven't we, today? We've landed all 3 of them better fish that we've hooked. Oh, look at him. He's not as big as the other one, but he's still a lovely fish. Look at that. Cracking common. Now I'm going to actually top it up with some ground bait now, because I've got to imagine that carp's been in and eating everything. So I'm just going to quickly top it up. I'm just going to top it up with just a tiniest little ball of ground bait, just with an odd pinky in it, just like we've been doing. Obviously they're feeding now, so we can do it. Okay, so we've given the pellet a try and we've given the short line a try, but I've got to be honest, no bites. I caught a perch short, but we don't really want to catch little perch, we want to catch skimmers. And it just looks like all signs are pointing towards this ground bait line being the one, and we topped it up just shortly, so let's see if we can just have a big finish, see if we can catch a fish or two. I see the lights going really quickly now, so let's just see if we can't catch ourselves a fish or two to end on. just little details about how we're fishing. You know, now we are catching some fish, I can, you know, demonstrate it a bit better. There's not a lot of tow now. Now the wind's sort of really dropped. It's not ramming through or anything, but it is still tripping through. So I've actually put more depth on. I'm probably sort of 4 inches over depth now, just to try and slow it down as much as I can. It's like painful when you miss when you miss a bite, when you've had so few bites all day, and you get a bite like that, and you miss it. Oh, it's like horrible. But again, that was a bite, you know, just as the rig settled, really. There we go. Again, another one, just as the rig settled. That's what we come for here, another skimmer. And I guess this is kind of panned out, even though it's been difficult, it's kind of panned out exactly how I think a winter match can. And it's that having the faith, never, you know, don't give up. Keep trying, keep working at it. Don't give up, because all of a sudden, you know, we're catching pound plus fish. Most goes in now, and suddenly you'll get, you know, you could end up with like a double figure net of fish in no time. Like, no problem really catching fish like that. You know, plus those carp we've had. All of a sudden you've ended up doing well in the match, if you are match fishing, or even if you're just pleasure fishing. You know, you're going out on a real high. So let's just see if we can catch one more. But I would be trying to catch one or two and topping up after sort of every 2 fish, I think, with ground bait. I think it would work an absolute treat now that there's some fish here to catch. There we go. Oh, that feels a bit weird. That feels a bit weird, like it could be something different. Doesn't feel like a skimmer, this one. Never got a perch. What have we got? Yeah, it felt like a perch. I can't go on a perch. Oh, I've still got time in my self-imposed filming limit. I've still got time, so let's get back out. Come on. Although I'm not so sure a perch is a good sign, but let's not let that deter us. We want a skimmer, one last skimmer. That's what we want. Come on, skimmers. Struck a bite then. I wasn't sure if it, in hindsight, it's probably me dipping my back shoulder. Gotta say, the bristles on these bulk floats are really nice. Like, look at that, it's just glowing. You know, it's only 1.5 mil that is, but it's, with that sun like it is, that hollow tip's just glowing like a beacon. It's really, really good. That's certainly when these hollow tips are at the best, and when that sun's like that, they're just mega. go. There we go. That's what we come for. That's not a perch. If it is, it's a good one. Oh, is it? It's got to be a nice skin, hasn't it? And it's been one of them sessions, you know, when you actually think about it, what a great day's fishing. We've had the beautiful carp that we caught on the maggot feeder. And we've had a bit of a lull, but it's given us time to eat our cake and stuff. And then we've caught some fish on the pole lake. Like, really, I don't even know it's hard. It's a great day's fishing. Now, I don't know what this is, because it's charging round a bit. But yeah, it's actually been a really good winter's day's fishing, really. It's only the fact that I've got to get this film wrapped up that's preventing me from fishing more, to be honest. What is this? A little carp. It's a little carp, this, you know. It's got to be a little carp, hasn't it? Maybe run around on the old 4 to 6. Yeah, little carp to end on. Come on, my beauty, look at that. It's not a skimmer, but I'll tell you what, look at that for a little beauty in the sun. What a cracking little fish. And it's the perfect way, I'm going to say, to end our little session here on the Warren at Meadowlands. Get that hook out of there. Beautiful mirror. I think that's carp number 5 actually of the session. And we've had those skimmers, we've had a few perch, no roach, but plenty of bites, albeit a lot of them late on. But that is winter fishing to a T, actually. You know, those fish that feed late in the day, as that light's fading, we've hung in there, we've kept the faith, and eventually we've had plenty of bites. So, hope you like that. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you again on the next video here on the Nufish channel.